Okay, in this video we're going to go over the review for Chapter 5, Sections 4 and 5. So this first question says BD, so line segment BD, so they're talking about the line segment that's right here. BD is a median of ABC. So if it's a median, this is what happens right away. Find the length of AD. Well, if DC is 6, then AD is also 6 because of the median impact. Now be careful about the lettering. If they had asked for AC, you would have said 12. Similarly over here, find the length of AD, and once again, BD, this line right here, is a median. So when you get a median, you can have two equal parts. So this is a pretty easy question because if DC is 17, then so is AD. Okay, here again, this was a simple one, but if they had asked you it slightly differently, if, for example, instead they said, what is AC? AC, you would double that, so it's 17 plus 17, so that would be 34. So be careful what they're asking you. Always illustrate before you go and answer the question. So let's go to the next page. So here's one of these problems where they give you lots of information at the onset. So I would strongly recommend you write in what you know on your figure and then look at the questions. So it says G is the centroid. So if G is the centroid, then that means that, all these lines, let me get rid of that, all these are equal. Okay, so I'm just going to indicate that these are equal because that's what centroid does. It connects the medians. So AD is 8. So if AD is 8, then DB must also be 8 because they have the same number of hash marks. AG is 10. So if I know that that's 10, and that's from the vertex to the centroid. So from the centroid to the side will be half of that 10. So that's going to be 5. Okay, so then CD, which is the whole median, is 18. So therefore what I know is that GC, which is from the vertex to the centroid, will be 2/3 of 18. So the 3 cancels into the 18, gives me 6. So that means this piece will be 12. And if that piece is 12, then the smaller piece is going to be half of it. If this is not familiar to you, definitely go back and look at the notes because we've practiced many of these. So now let's answer the questions. BD is going to be 8 because I've already labeled it. AB is the whole side of the triangle, so it's 8 plus 8 or 16. EG, so EG equals BE. So do we know anything there? So let me see. No, so I'm going to get back to that in a second. So AE is the whole piece, is the whole median. So it's 5 plus 10, which is 15. CG, so CG is going to be 12. And DG is going to be 6. And I'm sorry, EG is just this little piece here, so EG is 5. So that answers that question. These are really important questions, so make sure you understand how I got my answers, and if not, go back to your notes and go back to the homework for this section because we covered both these problems in both locations. Okay, so this problem says, looking at the triangle to the right, find the midpoints of sides A, B, and C using the midpoint formula. So the first thing I would do here is to write in your coordinate pairs. So X always comes first, and X is on the horizon, and Y is on the vertical section. So point A is 2, 2. Okay, looking at point C, reading x first, that's 8, 4. 8, 4. And looking at point B now, reading x first, that is 4, 6. So now I have my numbers. I have my formula right here. So to find the midpoint of side A, here is side A right here. And I would add my x's together. So I would say 4 plus 8 divided by 2. So that's 12 divided by 2. That's 6, comma. And then 6 plus 4 divided by 2, that's 10 divided by 2, that would be 5. So I'm just applying this formula. Okay, the midpoint of side B, so we'll change colors. Side B is right here. So the midpoint's going to be the middle of the points A and C. So I'm going to say 2 plus 8 divided by 2, that's 10 divided by 2, that's 5, those are the x's. Add my y's, 2 plus 4 is 6, so 2 plus 4 is 6, divided by 2 is 3. Okay, looking at point side C, I'll change again. So here is side C, and you need to have the midpoint of points A and B. So A is going to be 2 for the x plus 4 for the x and B divided by 2. 2 plus 4 is 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then do the y's. So 2 plus 6 divided by 2, 8 divided by 2 is 4. So if I ask you to show your work, this is the kind of work I'm expecting. So now let's just check to make sure this makes sense or this seems reasonable in their answers. And they all should have coordinate pairs. They should be in parens. So look, if I plot out 3, 4, that is right there, and that seems reasonable for the midpoint. So I'll go back through the colors, put this guy in parentheses, and that is 5, 3. 5, 3 is right here, and that looks like a midpoint as well, so that seems like a reasonable answer. And then jumping back over to the green, I see that 6, 5. 6 and then 5 is right here, and that looks like a midpoint as well. So my answers are reasonable. I followed a formula, and you should be able to do this, pretty straightforwardly. Okay, in this problem, they give you information again, so I would annotate your figure with the information before looking at your questions. So P is a centroid, so that means that it divides these sides into equal parts, so I'm indicating that. And now they tell me that YP, so YP is 12, so that's from the vertex to the centroid. That's 12. The smaller piece from the centroid to the side of the triangle is half of that, so I know it's 6. LX, so LX is 15. If LX is 15, then LY is also 15. LZ, so LZ is a median. If LZ is 18, then what do I know about PZ? That's the longer one. So PZ will be 2/3 times 18. So that's going to be 12. So this is 12, and it just so happens that these two medians have the same measurements because the other one has to be 6, because it's always going to be half of 12. And 6 plus 12 is 18, which is what they told us LZ was. Okay, so now let's look at the questions, because they should be pretty easy now that we've done all this thinking. So LY is right here, and that's going to be 15. Okay, YN, so YN is the entire median, and so you're going to add 12 plus 6 that we already have labeled there. That's going to be 18. LP, so LP is the short side of the median, so that's going to be 6. And I had all those answers already figured out before I ever got to the problems. Okay, let me do these next two questions on the next page so I can have some more room for it. Okay, so in this question, for number 13 and for 14, it says, is it possible to construct a triangle with the given side lengths? If not, explain why. So you have to remember how we know if it's possible to construct this triangle. So the rule of thumb is any two sides that you add together have to be greater than the third side. So the best way to check is to start adding sides together. So is it true that 8 plus 9, which is 17, is greater than 15? So that works. So then try 9 plus 15. Is that greater than 8? And yes, it is. And how about 15 plus 8? Is that greater than 9? And since you say yes to all, therefore, it can be a triangle. Okay, but you have to check all three. So you may want to just draw it first if that helps you keep track of things. Okay, so here's my triangle. What I did first was 8 plus 9. It had to be greater than 15. Then I did 9 plus 15. That had to be greater than 8. And then I did 15 plus 8 plus 15, and that had to be greater than 9. So that's how you set things up. So let's do the next one now, and I'll change the color just so that we have a little variation. Okay, so I have to do the same analysis. So 4 plus 7, is that greater than 13? And it's not, because 4 plus 7 is only 11. So this is no. And then you can keep going on and checking, and when we do the exercise, just to be certain. So how about 7 plus 13? Is that greater than 4? And we can say yes to that. And what haven't we added together yet? How about 4 plus 13? Is that greater than 7? And that answer is also yes. But because you had this no, two sides added together was not greater than the third side, it cannot be a triangle. And you would have to justify that by saying every two sides added together has to exceed or be greater than the third side. Otherwise, a triangle is not possible. Okay, so this question says, using an inequality statement, write the possible lengths of the third side of the triangle given the lengths of the other two sides. So, to write an inequality statement, you put your x, which is the missing side, in the middle, and then you say x has to be less than the sum of the two other sides, which would be 11, and it has to be greater than the difference of the two sides, which is 1. So again, to get the 1, I said 6 minus 5, and to get the 11, I said 6 plus 5. This is your inequality statement. So be able to write those and be able to know which way the inequality symbols are going. You will always start in the middle and you say x has to be less than 11, then go back and say x has to be greater than 1. Okay, notice it can't be equal to 1 and it cannot be equal to 11. So if I asked you to write out what possible values you can have, that this question is not asking you to do that, but if I asked you to do that separately, you would say 2 all the way through 10. Okay, you can't have 1 and you can't have 11. Okay, so let's do the next one. So now you should have a hang of it. X has to be less than the sum of 14 and 21, which is what, 35? And it has to be greater than the difference, and that's 7. So again, I said 21 plus 14 to get the sum, and I said 21 minus 14 to get the difference. You will always have positive numbers both places. Okay, so the next question says list the sides in order from smallest to largest. So I think I'm going to list the sides two ways. The first way is just to first look for my smallest angle and then go right across and say that that side BC is the smallest, because this is going from smallest to largest. Then my next angle is 59. That's right across from AC. And 71 is right across from AB, 71 being the largest angle. Okay, there's another way to label your sides. So across from angle A is little side A. So you could have also called this little side A. Across from angle B is little side B. So AC is also called little side B. And across from C, which was our largest angle, is little side C. So you can refer to your sides with two letters, and then you should put the segment symbol on top, or with one letter, and that does not require the segment symbol. Okay, so in this question, they want you to list the angles in order from smallest to largest. So look at the smallest side, and that is across from the smallest angle. So angle D is the smallest. Look at the next side, which is the 19 centimeter length, and that is across from angle E. And then the last, the 30 centimeter, is across from angle F. And those are your angles from least to greatest, or from smallest to largest.